Welcome back, y'all. Back in Fish in a Tree. Today we're doing chapters 28 to 30. Your guys' writing has been getting better, but some of you still aren't doing 2 sentences per question in the form below. So make sure you're doing 2 sentences per question, okay? Full sentences. 1 sentence cannot be the word yes, because I think, it needs to be yes because blah, 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 and then a whole nother sentence, okay? The word yes is not a sentence. The number of times I've just seen the word yes. Y'all, I'm going to throw my laptop off my balcony if I see it again. Not really, but you get the point, okay? Stop just saying yes. Give me full answers. Use your mind. Expand your thoughts, okay? You guys write so much better than what you've been doing on the forum sometimes, and I know you can do better, okay? All right, we're going to jump into it. Chapters 28 to 30. Chapter 28. Deal of a lifetime. Allie, Mr. Daniels calls me up as the classroom empties for lunch. Yeah, I ask, heading over. So I've been thinking a lot about some answers you give during discussions. I love it when you share your opinions. Thanks, I say, wondering why he really called me up here. And I loved your thoughts on Roy G. Biv. I overheard you asking Suki about her grandfather and comparing him to yours. Well, Allie, I am impressed by you. I shrug. What am I going to say? That he's crazy if he thinks I have anything for brains but a pail full of grasshoppers? Really, you have some wonderful gifts, and your explanation of lonely and alone, that was clever. I glance up at him and stare at his shoes. By the time I answer, that was just because I know about those words, alone and lonely. That's all. It was just an unfortunate stroke of luck. He laughs. An unfortunate stroke of luck, huh? I nod. I see. Yeah. Allie, how many kids your age use phrases like unfortunate stroke of luck? I feel like a fish in a wire cage rather than a tank. Can I go to lunch, Yao? Can I go to lunch now? Not just yet. I'm wondering. Do you ever think one word but a different one comes out of your mouth? Well, yeah, I guess. Does reading give you headaches? I nod, more nervous. When you look at letters, do they seem to move all over the place? I'm confused. Of course they do. They do? He is wide-eyed. I nod, but I'm not sure if I should. He looks at me for a while, and I think about how Keisha's cupcakes feel when she watches them in the oven. One more question, he says. I shift my weight. Have you ever played a game called chess? Yeah, I say, happier. It's from Alice in Wonderland Looking Through the Glass. My grandpa read it to me a gazillion times. It's the game that uses a checkerboard and castle pieces, right? He brightens. Yeah, that's the one. Do you know how to play? I shake my head. Do you want to learn? I don't know. Well, he says, leaning forward and resting his elbows on his knees, I think you'd like chess. I could show you how to play after school, if you'd like. I'd have to stay after? He thinks for a second. Well, I was thinking of starting a chess club. I thought you could come first so I could teach you to play. If it works out well, we could invite other kids. Might be fun. Something different. It's not like I was born yesterday. I know that he's up to something. Teachers don't volunteer to stay after school to play games. I want to say yes because Mr. Daniels is cool, and I don't think there's any reading stuff in chess, and my grandpa would have liked to know I could play, but it scares me. Well, I don't think so, but thanks anyway. He seems disappointed. I turn to go. How about if I excuse you from homework for learning how to play? I stop like my feet are strapped to 1,000-pound blocks. Did he just say that? I turn around. What's the catch, I ask. No catch. If you stay after the learn test for a few days, I'll excuse you from homeworks on the days you stay. Am I going to have to write a paper or something? No papers. Promise. I just come in here and play a game, and I get out of homework. No catch. Well, you can't tell anyone in class. I'll call your mom about it, though. He holds his hand out to shake it. We have a deal, then? Yeah, okay. I can't say no to that deal. Homework is only one step above death. I'm so happy about skipping some homework that I'll keep remembering it and being happy over and over again. But what really gets me is that in order for Mr. Daniels to come up with his plan, he must have thought of me outside of school, when he didn't have to think of me. I bet other teachers have never let me sit in their head 1 second longer than they had to. Chapter 29, Fish in a Tree. Sorry, y'all. Allergies. Albert, Keisha, and I get off the bus for our class trip to the Noah Webster house. With no written work today, I'm thinking it will be a silver dollar day. Albert starts collecting acorns from the ground and filling his pockets. I'm tempted to ask why, but I'm afraid the answer will take an hour. Oliver picks up acorns and whips them at trees. Max joins in. Max hits a tree every time. Oliver not so much. Mr. Daniels walks over to something and says something to make them stop. I pick up an acorn too, and it reminds me of the little Frenchman with a pointed chin, perfectly shaped head, and a little beret. I named him Pierre and stick him in my pocket. I decide that I'll do a drawing of him later, maybe dancing with a lady at the Eiffel Tower. My grandpa always said he was going to take me to see it. Albert's pockets are bulging by the time we line up to go inside. Shay is rolling her eyes at him and laughing. When Mr. Daniels looks in her direction, she stops like she has an on and off switch. When he looks away, she laughs again. Don't laugh at him, I say. Fine, she says. I'll laugh at you. I don't care if you laugh at me. Albert just stands there looking a little lost. Albert, I whisper, why don't you tell him to go jump in a lake or at least to leave you alone? Albert, Keisha talks to him in her you better listen to me voice. Hunched over and silent is no way to meet the world. Albert bends over, picking up more acorns. He looks up at us. It isn't logical, he says, and will only let them know it bothers me. So it does bother you, I ask? He stands up straight. Well, no one likes to be insulted, but let's say that my worry about Shay is a drop of water in the ocean compared to my other worry right now. What's that, I ask? These acorns, he says, holding one up. This green coloring on the side looks like moss, but I'm concerned that it's actually a fungus. If that's the case, all these trees may be in danger. I collected samples and will do further research. I lean in and look at the acorn. I like how Albert cares and he's able to see things that other people wouldn't. But I wish Albert would care about himself as much as the scientific world. Ooh. Mr. Daniels puts us into group. I pray that I end up in his group or with Keisha and Albert. I get part of my wish, and I'm in a group with Albert. Mr. Daniels is with a bunch of boys, including Oliver and Max. We get the drill about behaving, things being old, and how we're not supposed to touch them. We break into our groups and head upstairs and into a bedroom. So, our guide says, straightening her bonnet, does anyone know what the term sleep tight came from? Albert raises his hand and she calls on him with a little smile. Albert points to the underside of the bed. Mattresses were held with rope so that if they were on the floor and away from bugs, when the mattresses would sag, they'd tighten the ropes, making the bed more comfortable. Hence the saying, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. Well, if anyone know about bed bugs, he would, Shay says. Downstairs in the kitchen, the fireplace is big enough to stand in. The lady tells us that the girls didn't go to school much as boys, that they typically stayed home to learn how to take care of the house. My mind bites into that, and I can't stop thinking about it. No more school. Ever. I lean over. Albert, do you think that time travel is possible? He whispers. Albert Einstein had extensive theories on its possibilities, and I certainly wouldn't argue with him. Me either, I say to him. How do you think I would look into one of those dresses and bonnets? He looks puzzled. Finally, we go to the colonial schoolroom and join the rest of our class. A lady talks about what a visionary Noah Webster was, to create the first American spellers and dictionaries. Before that, people just used to make up spellings. There were no right and wrong ways to spell. Some visionary, this spelling stuff is all his fault, since he's the one who got in his head that we all needed to spell the same way. I think Noah Webster was a scoundrel, and they should have put him in jail for this. The lady tells us it took him 20 years. Students in the colonial time didn't use paper and pencils like you do now. The lady holds up a little chalkboard and a wooden frame. They used slates like these and wrote their answers down to show their teachers. She passes out slates, which are fun to write on. I draw a picture of Pierre with his beret, and I wish I had some green chalk to add, a little smudge in honor of Albert. The woman takes on a pointed white hat. Now this is something a teacher began to use in schools toward the end of Noah Webster's life. It's called a dunce cap. As punishment for misbehavior, a child would have to wear it and stand in a corner facing the wall. I hear giggling. Shay is showing her slate to a bunch of other kids. There's a head wearing a dunce hat, and Allie is written underneath it. What's the fuss about? The guide asks as she walks over. Then she turns to them. This isn't very nice. Erase that, please. I stand. willing the tears that come to my eyes to stop, knowing they will only give everyone more to make fun of. Are you all right? The guide asked me. Everyone is quiet now. They're all watching me. It's worse than the laughing, so I run out of the room and out of the museum. A woman calls to me, but I keep going. Out the door and around the back, across the lawn of a beautiful light green house, I find a swing set, which reminds me of my grandpa, and think of how we'd spend hours on them at the park. I try to think about what he'd say now, and I'm sad that it's hard for me to remember his voice exactly. His hand slides down the chains as I sit on the seat, thinking of when I was little, when the world wasn't such a heavy place. I used to love to swing as high as I could, leaning back, reaching for a bright blue sky with my feet, and it made me feel like I could do anything, reach anything. I lean my cheek against the cool chain, feeling like I can't reach anything anymore. Then the tears come, and then standing in front of me are my feet. The shoes on them belong to Mr. Daniels. He stands for a while without saying anything at all, until he finally calls my name. All I can do to respond is sniff. Can you tell me what happened in there? I don't know what to say. Such a small question and such a giant answer. Please just leave me alone. He takes a couple steps away and stays quiet for a bit. Then he says, my brother and I used to love to write in the sand on the beach when my family would go to Maine. I don't answer him. Then he picks up his sticks and writes something in the dirt under the swing next to me. More words. Why can't I ever get away from words? He turns toward me and I stare at his knees. Allie, he says, holding out the stick, do you want to write something? I shake my head. I think of flying on swings through bright blue skies and away from words like dumb and freak and loser. He squats down in front of me. Sorry about whatever it was that made you upset. Let me help. I take a deep breath, and when I let it out, the words come with it. Nobody's ever going to be able to help me. Not ever. They all said I should have a dunce cap on, and they're right. That's the thing. They're right. Oh my, Allie, you actually believe that, don't you? I can hear that it's a shock to him. I finally look up at him. Why wouldn't I? Because you are most certainly not dumb, Allie. You're just saying that. No, I'm not. Actually, for one, you're amazing on those bus driver math problems. You're one of the only kids who gets the really harder ones correct. I look up in his face with a bright sun behind him and blurt out, but how come I can't read? This is the first time I've ever asked the question out loud. I guess because of how desperate I am for an answer. Aw, Allie, he says. This thing that makes school hard for you, I think you might have something called dyslexia. And it means that although it's hard for you to read, it doesn't mean you're dumb. He laughs a little. In fact, you, Allie Nickerson, are far from it. Your brain just figures things out differently than other people. I'm different. He's got that right. But no way I am smart like he says. You just don't understand. Yeah, Allie, I do. Then he leans in. And you know what? You're brave. I so want to be brave, but I'm not. Come to school every day knowing what you're in for, knowing school will be hard and that other kids are going to razz you, and you still come every day and you decide you're going to try again. I stay quiet, just thinking about what he said, hoping he knows what he's talking about. And you know something else? In some ways, you're a lot smarter than the other kids. You can also do things they can't. For one, you're an amazing artist. Those drawings of yours? Wow, Allie, you've got real talent there. What do you think about that? I think it's like people saying, I'm sorry, you're going to die, but at least we're going to bring you flowers. He laughs really hard now. See that? Seriously, Allie, only smart people say things like that. His voice drops. It's going to be okay, kiddo. I never hoped for something so much as this. You and I are going to figure this out together. As a matter of fact, I already spoke to Miss Silver and Miss Kessler, the reading consultant at school. I was already planning to call your mom and talk to you tomorrow. We're going to give you some tests. I deflate. Oh no, please no tests. Not the tests you're used to. You'll see. These are more like puzzles and games than tests, but the results will help us all help you. I feel like I can look up for the first time. You are smart, Allie, and you're going to learn to read. A chill runs through my whole body. I don't have any choice but to believe him, because I can't go another day thinking things will be like this forever. I wipe the tears from my face with the back of my hand. He stands up and we start walking back. Mr. Daniels looks up at the bright blue sky and says, Now don't be so hard on yourself, okay? You know, a wise person once said, everyone is smart in different ways, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life thinking it's stupid. I think about that. Could it be that simple? A mind movie flickers in my brain of an angry fish at the bottom of a tree, banging on the trunk with its fins and complaining that it can't climb it. Think of a turtle making a sandwich, a snake playing the violin, an elephant knitting, penguins playing basketball, an eagle scuba diving, but mostly, I hope every tiny bit of myself that Mr. Daniels is right about all of this. Chapter 30. Miserable King. 2 days later, a lady named Miss Kessler pulls me out of class early that day to give me some tests. Mr. Daniels right. They are more like puzzles and games than an awful bobble test we do, where I just fill in circles without even reading the questions. She's really nice, like Mr. Daniels. After school, Mr. Daniels is setting up a chessboard and pieces and the reading table. I walk over and he looks up. So did your mom tell you I called? Yeah, she didn't say much though. She usually has a lot to say about everything. He laughs. Moms usually do. He motions towards the chair. Have a seat. I pull out the chair, wondering what this is all about. Okay, he says, loosening his tie. We're going to do some serious work. Chess is a game about planning. It isn't like other games where you just capture the powerful piece. He points to a piece with a cross on top. This is the king. The object of the game is to trap your opponent's king, but not actually capture it. When you put your piece in a place where it could take the other king, it's called check. When you give the other king absolutely nowhere to go, it's called checkmate, and that's how you win. Normally I would be nervous and my mind would go blank, but he just has this relaxing way. His voice makes me calm. Maybe because I know he'll never say anything mean, call me lazy or dumb, and I know he wouldn't think it either. Got that so far? I nod. So, then, are you going to capture my king? I hesitate. Did I mess up already? Didn't you say that you don't capture it? That you just make it miserable? He laughs. Yes, I did say that. Good, Allie. Good listening. So he goes through the rest of the pieces. The queen is the most powerful and can travel in a straight line in any direction. These are 8 pawns that, when you band them together, can be strong. Most players take them for granted, though. He tells me that's a mistake. The rooks look like castles and travel in forward and backward and side-to-side lines across the whole board. The bishops travel diagonally in straight lines, and the knights can jump in an L shape. The king can only move one spot in any direction. It stinks to be one with the target on your back and be the one who can't go anywhere. He has made up a sheet with pictures of pieces and arrows to show how they move. He says it's just in case I need a reminder. I turn it over, looking him square in the eye. I don't need that. He smiles a little bit, but never takes his eyes off me as he reaches down and moves one of his pawns. Good then. When I start to make some dumb moves, he asks, are you sure you want to do that? The first game ends fast, but on the second game I capture his queen, the most powerful piece on the board. I stand up so fast my knees push my chair back and it falls over. I want to ask him if he'll let me do that, but I'm afraid of his answer. He holds up his hand to high-five me. Well done. And it is so weird. I don't have trouble with this game. I like it. I like planning what I'll do to trap his pieces. He shows me how you can work it so that you put your pieces in place where it can choose between taking 2 different pieces. Then your opponent has to choose which one to let go. That's called a fork. I love the look on his face when I manage one of those and take his bishop. Like it hurts a little, but he likes it too. The longer we play, the better I can see it in my head. I can see what the board will look like a couple of moves from now. I learn to predict what he might do. I see a mind movie where a chess piece comes to life. They can travel around the board all day by themselves and they're just happy that they don't have to just stand there and wait for somebody to pick them up and move them. I know how relieved they are being able to do something for themselves. That's where we're going to end for today. Make sure you answer all those questions, please. Please, please, please. 2 sentences. All right, I'll see you all tomorrow.